sharialanae, and welcome back to my channel where I talk all things flight attendant. So before we get into anything, I want to say I got my job back. I'm very excited, although I don't know exactly how long it's going to be. At the end of the day, I have my job. Um, right now, it's just temporary for 3 months, but we will see what will happen like as time goes on. Right now, we're still kind of finding out things as we go, so nothing's set in stone at this time. So hopefully, we'll find out soon, and as soon as I know something, I will share with you guys. So today, I want to get into things to know before you start applying for this job. In my opinion, there are different sacrifices that you will have to make throughout this job and things that you are going to have to basically give up or learn. So it's a lot that you have to take into account before even applying for this job, especially if it's something that you know you want to do. So let's hop right on in. So the first thing I want to tell you to do is do your research. For me, this wasn't a job that I really planned for. It's kind of something that just happened, and I'm really glad and grateful that it did. However, once I knew, like, going into this job, that it was something I really wanted to do, I started doing my research. And not just the videos that were uploaded on YouTube, but like really do your research as far as the company that you are planning on applying for, the different bases that they have. So that way, there's certain things that you do know before you get into this job. I do want to put emphasis on the fact that the sacrifices for this job starts as soon as you get your CJO. Um, for those of you who are not aware what a CJO is, it's a contingent job offer. So it's one of the things that, of course, we get from the airline, basically stating that we have the position and be headed to training. When we went through the interview process, they give you a list of all the bases and everything that they have. So I started doing my research to see what bases I wanted to possibly end up in if it was an option. Of course, not all the bases are going to be an option. However, I wanted to get a jump on that, so at least I knew what to expect with some of the bases, like some of my options, what was basically like my top 5, and what was my bottom base choices. Um, Ultimately, you don't get to choose, but it is something that you have to start looking into as soon as possible. Another thing I would recommend is to start saving. If you're planning to get this job, start saving now. I know everybody's situation, circumstances are completely different. I can only go based off my experiences. When I did my interview process, we were told that we would start training at the like mid to end of summer, and we end up beginning training in the fall. We actually started training a week before Thanksgiving, or I think it was the same week of Thanksgiving actually. Um, so that gave me an extra 4 months basically to start planning, because I went from expecting to start in maybe like July, August to starting in November. So that definitely gave me extra time to not only create a plan, but to execute my plan and save the money that I needed to save. My lease was up in September. So came September, I made the sacrifice to move in with my mom. I've been on my own for a while, so moving with my mom, I wouldn't say it was really a sacrifice, it was just a transition. So I made the transition of moving with my mom. I stayed with my mom for, September, October, November, and then it was time to go to training. And so that was something else that I didn't really expect to happen that year, but it did. You have to expect and to anticipate being away from your family. For us, for my training group, we were in training for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and of course there was some birthdays sprinkled in there. So we were in training for basically every major important holiday. Um, so if you are not used to being away from home, that's going to be a big transition for you. Being away from home, from your family, and then you add on top of that holidays. I know for everybody that's not something that they want to experience. But again, training is just preparing you for when you get on the line. So do expect to be away from your family within that time. Another thing you are going to have to expect is receiving a pay cut. Of course, the first pay cut is with training. You are only getting paid that stipend weekly. Um, and of course, some airlines don't even give you that. So definitely consider your pay cut to start when you start training. Um, so that again can be an adjustment for some people. With me, I was able to take the money that I was putting towards my rent to save it. I started trying to make sure I can save as much as I can before training was starting, so that way there was one less thing that I have to worry about. Not only do you take a pay cut by receiving that stipend for basically 2 months, when you also get on a line, you are only getting paid for so many hours. Granted, we get paid really good. However, if you aren't able to get the hours that you need, you're going to be taking a pay cut, because the amount that we get paid with the number of hours that you might actually work, it's not going to be a lot in comparison, and definitely depending on the type of job you had previously. It's only so much that you can prepare for, but however, knowing this information, you can prepare for that, and you can start now. Start now. When you apply for this job, you have your face-to-face interviews. They are going to ask you, are you willing to move several times? Because you're moving. Regardless of where you at, you're going to be moving. The chances of you not moving is slim to none, but it is possible for some people. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to move. For my training class, we were given the options of Newark, San Francisco, and Denver. My options were, in order that I chose them was Newark, San Francisco, and Denver. For me, Denver is just too cold. It's not somewhere that I wanted to be. I know Newark is cold as well, but I also have friends on the East Coast. Maybe I can be a little closer to my friends that I do have on the East Coast that I'm not able to see. And, that was just a little incentive. And then, of course, the cost of living is reasonable. San Francisco, it was number 2 because of the weather. Hands down because of the weather. Like, I know it gets chilly there. I know it's chilly really almost year round. I knew going into this that I would be in a crash pad. But before I get into that, you do have to realize that once you're done with training, we were given a week basically to pack our stuff up and be shipped off to another state. I managed to pack everything that I needed with my Tumi. I had a large suitcase, and then I had like what we call a Mary Poppins bag. So I had those 3 pieces of luggages, um, hopped on a plane and moved to San Francisco with just that. And so it was definitely a quick transition. However, I was ready to move. I knew I was going to move. They asked you several times, even in training, if you are ready to move. So that's something that you know is going to happen. And when you start training, you find out how quick it's going to happen as well. So it's something that you have to do. Another sacrifice was, of course, living in a crash pad. Before this, I had my own apartment. I moved in with my mom, but I still had my own room. I still had more space. And then I go to training, I have a roommate, and then I go to California and I live in a crash pad where I share a room with 6 girls. For those of you who are not aware what a crash pad is, it's basically like a dormitory style living. I really loved my crash pad. It was a large 5-bedroom house, so there was more than enough room for us. And there were only 11 flight attendants total that were split between 2 rooms. There was one for the girls, one for the guys. And then we had 3 regular attendants who were just people that rented out a room but still worked in San Francisco, which here in San Francisco, that's pretty common for people to rent out rooms. So we had our common area as far as the garage, the kitchen, and the living room. And in the beginning, we were barely there, so it was fine. Of course, COVID happened again. That first year, fine. It was a transition. For me, it was a sacrifice. However, it was a sacrifice that I knew I had to make in order to be able to survive in San Francisco, still work, still be able to save money, and still be able to provide myself with the type of lifestyle that I do want eventually. So just to reiterate again, you need to focus on doing your research, saving, expect to have several transitions that you are not going to be completely prepared for. Expect to have a pay cut and expect to move to a completely different state and possibly have uncomfortable living arrangements. I know a lot of people actually was okay in crash pads and they were completely fine. So it's something that it's definitely popular in the flight attendant realm. So it's an adjustment, but you quickly get used to it because it just becomes a part of your life. There are people who are commuters and they still have a crash pad part-time, but of course they have their own homes and anything of that sort. The last thing I do want to touch base on, and it's something that's fairly new to me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people in this entire process, but it's a possibility of a furlough. I'm very thankful that I did not have an apartment. I'm very thankful that I didn't have anything that I was obligated to. So it was easy for me to just be able to pack up my life and move back home to Texas. And I feel like with my class in general and with a lot of people, we really didn't realize that furlough was an option, and especially so soon. So the fact that we were all furloughed, thankfully only for 3 months, hopefully that's it, but you do have to think about a furlough and making sure that it's something that you are prepared for mentally, because mentally it takes a toll on you. I know so many of us were just disappointed because we all feel like we finally found a job that we could make as a career, but we have the opportunity to not only do this job but do other things as well. So I feel like with this job, so many opportunities and so many things were presented to me. that kind of just helped me put things in perspective a little bit better. And never did I think that this job would do that, but it did. So a lot of people were just so disappointed, myself included, because we finally found the job that we like, that we love, and then we have to get furlough. So it was a big transition, physically and mentally. At the end of the day, I'm a very optimistic person. I feel like optimism is my superpower. I'm always gonna see a silver lining. I'm always gonna see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I just wanna make sure that we are all able to do that and realize that everything happens for a reason. We might not see it right now. We might not see it 2 months from now, a year from now, but eventually you'll see that everything happens for a reason. So the fact that we are back to work and whether we will be able to work, it's a big thing to be excited about and really just embrace what's going on for the time being. The furlough was definitely something that I did not expect to happen. Of course, COVID is something that no one expected to happen, but it did. It did, and now we're here, and we just have to be able to pick up and move forward. Even though we don't know when things are going to finally change and start to look up for us, it's never too early to start planning, especially if you know this is something that you really want to do. I'll probably say this in every video. This job is so rewarding, and it's something that I'm really glad that I've been presented with and that I've done, and that I'm here and I'm excited. So I don't know what the future holds for me, but we shall see. But until then, you guys have a beautiful day, and just be sure to find the goodness and all of the bad. See you next time. Bye.